Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable Kiai Haji Mutawakil Allah SHMM as a chairman of the caregivers and chairman of the Zainul Hasan Genggong Education Foundation, Honorable Mr. Dr. Abdul Aziz BAMAG as director of Zainul Hasan Genggong Islamic University, Honorable Mr. Dr. Muhammad Hibdil Islam MPDI and Mr. Ahmad Khalili MPD as the final project supervisor, and Honorable for my parents who are very instrumental in making this article. My name is Oktavia Margareta. I'm from the English department of the Faculty of Education and Scientific. With this video, I'm eligible to become one of the Sempro participant into 2023 until 2024. In this Sempro test, I will use an article which is proof on LOI and proof on publication as attached. I will start by mentioning the title of the article that I published, namely the effectiveness of the talking stick method in improving students' speaking skill at MA Uswatun Hasanah. The following is a systematic preparation of articles, namely abstract, introduction, literary review, methodology, finding and discussion, and conclusion, and the last is a reference. I will start from the introduction in my article. There are two variables, namely variable X and variable Y, where variable X is talking stick method and variable Y is speaking skill. Speaking ability is crucial in learning English, so many things or problems make researchers interested in researching it, such as technique methods used by teacher and also factors that can affect speaking ability. In addition, speaking ability is significant in learning activities because it can make students express their ideas in the learning process. Speaking ability also helps teachers in measuring student abilities in the learning process. Students can be successful if they can understand the material described and express it correctly. That is what makes speaking ability significant in the learning process. Based on the factor and some points that identify the success of speaking for students, the researcher chooses to use a talking stick method. This method has been widely researched before, so this method already sounds familiar, but not all teachers or schools use this method because it adjusts to need of the student. Previous research conducted by Chandiawan et al. Discussed improving speaking skill by using the talking stick method. Also, the research was conducted by Onata Hangu, who also examined the talking stick method in improving activities and learning outcome in science lessons. But previous studies obtained the same result in examining the talking stick method, namely that the method can improve activity, learning outcomes, and also student speaking skill. Although the two students differed in the variables studied in English and the science. Therefore, it can be said that the talking stick method has been widely used even not only in language lesson, but science and other lessons. This method involves the use of an object, such as a stick or other object, which gives the right to speak to the person holding the object. The basic principle is that only one person can speak at a time, while the others listen without interrupting. Once finished speaking, that the person then removes the stick and passes it to someone else who wants to speak. The advantage of using this method that it makes students more eager to learn, and they don't even feel like learning a foreign language, but like playing together, so that speaking training can also be more effective with a fun classroom ambience and appropriate strategy. With the selection of the title with several reasons, the first is why did I research speaking skill at MA Uswatun Hasanah? Because based on the survey and observation and the result of interview with subject teachers state that students at MA Uswatun Hasanah still have difficulty in mastering speaking skill, and also with the existence of this school which in the state of pesantren, so that English language courses are not too focused in the school. Secondly, why did I choose the talking stick method in my research? Because this method is a student-centered method, so that students can participate fully in learning English speaking. Besides, this method has never been applied at MA Uswatun Hasanah. So this is my interest in researching whether this method is effective for the development of speaking students there and how much the effectiveness of this method. The next is literature review. First, the theory of speaking. I think several opinions, one of which was conveyed by Mirza Agli about speaking, which reads, speaking is a method or way to express idea, message, and information using language built in communication with others. Teacher can be declared successful in teaching speaking skill when students are able to get a message conveyed by the teacher and can be understood and applied correctly by student. Number two, the purpose of speaking. Expressing ideas, opinions, and feelings through speech is crucial for building connection and relationships with others, as stated by Pan Thi Minh Uyen and Pan Thi Deo. And number three, the factors that inhibiting speaking skill. According to Hanha Islam MH and Ferdianto, also state in their research that there are two factors that affect student speaking skill, namely internal factors and external factors. The internal factor is when students feel bored and lazy to read and add their vocabulary, so that they have difficulty in speaking due to lack of vocabulary. Furthermore, the external factor is when the teacher uses Indonesian language in teaching English and only given 2 hours in 1 week so that students lack time to be able to practice speaking skill well. Based on observation made by researchers at M. Auswatun Hasanah, the research showed that students at M. Auswatun Hasanah have difficulty in speaking due to several factors, namely lack vocabulary, fear of performing in front of the class, difficulty in pronunciation English, use of the wrong or less interesting teaching method, so that some of these factors make students feel less like English lesson. Especially in speaking, even though it can be said that of the 4 skills in the English, they still cannot fully master both speaking, writing, listening, and reading skill. So based on this problem, the researchers choose the turning talking stick method, which is a student-centered method so that students can play an active role in speaking class. The next is the meaning of talking stick. Talking stick model is a useful learning tool with clear objectives and learning goals. It encourages students to be more engaged in the learning process by allowing them to discuss and solve problems with their group members. Additionally, each student must prepare themselves to answer questions as they may be called even by their group when they possess the talking stick. This model is also effective for reviewing previously learned material as students are encouraged to recall and discuss the subject matter. Number 2, the step of talking stick. According to Nur Maulidia in her research, the talking stick learning method can be implemented by following the step. Number 1, the teacher should prepare a stick or any other symbolic object that can be used as a tool for speaking. Number 2, the teacher should start the learning by introducing the subject matter to the student. Number 3, then the teacher should allow the student to speak or answer questions using the stick. The student holding the stick is expected to answer questions from the teacher after studying the subject matter. 5. The teacher and students should summarize the material that has been learned. 6. The teacher should provide an evaluation or assessment of the learning process. 7. Finally, the session shall be concluded with a closing. There is the advantage and disadvantage of talking stick method stated by Nur Maulidia too. So the advantage of the talking stick method are: first, test readiness to learn subject matter, trains the reading skill and improves comprehension, increase student engagement and confidence, encourage preparedness and active participation, boost student courage in asking questions, improve student learning outcomes. And for the disadvantage of the talking stick method are: students may feel nervous if they do not understand the material, may be less appropriate for students not comfortable speaking in front of the teacher. Class atmosphere may become rowdy if not controlled by the teacher. The next is previous study. Several studies have examined its effectiveness in speaking, writing, listening, and reading. For instance, research conducted by Saihu using quantitative method, such as a quasi-experimental study with a non-equivalent control group design. The research showed that students who have studied using the talking stick method perform significantly better than those who use conventional techniques. In addition, Barus conducted research at the junior high school level. The study used a descriptive qualitative method and obtained the result of student speaking skill in responding to students' short stories increased after applying the talking stick method. And last but not least, a study was conducted by Sari in a senior high school class using a mixed method approach. The study found that the talking stick method can enhance students' speaking skill, while the teacher's teaching material, interaction, role, and technique can also impact their speaking abilities. Therefore, the novelty of this study proposed using quantitative methods along with interview instruments to gain a better understanding of the effectiveness of the talking stick method in improving students' speaking ability. Aiding interviews will provide direct insight into the experience and feel of the student and teachers on the learning method under study, enriching the quantitative analysis. Thus, this research is expected to offer a more comprehensive understanding of the effectiveness of the talking stick method in the context of classroom learning, making a unique contribution to the field. The next slide is methodology. Furthermore, in the research method in this study, I used quantitative method with a quasi-experimental design. For treatment tests, I used the one of group pretest post-test technique because the population at M. Aswatun Hasanah School is relatively small, and if I have to use a control and experimental group, then at least I have two classes with the same grade, such as grade 11A and 11B. But in this school, it only consists of three classes, namely grade 10, 11, and 12. Each only has one class, and each class only consists of 16 until 25 students. Due to the shortage of students here too, so I use a sampling technique used, namely simple random sampling, using lottery technique used so that all population have the opportunity to be sampled, so that in my research it is not focused of just one class, but from all class with representative of each class. The taken in this study were 30 students, which can be said to fulfill the requirement for sampling in quantitative methods. The instrument used in this study is a speaking assessment, namely the read loud test, where the shortcoming of students in speaking, so that researchers choose this assessment to be able to get the data needed in the pre-test and post-test. In addition, the data collection used in this study is observation and interview that can strengthen the statistical result obtained from SPSS calculation. Before the instrument used in this study were launched to the student, the researcher tested the validity and reliability of the instrument used based on the result of SPSS calculation. The instrument used were valid and also reliable with a percent correlation value of +1, so that it could be said to be valid and reliability value 0.985 that greater than 0.70. In the data analysis, the data obtained from the pretest result will be calculated using SPSS and Microsoft Excel, after which the data will be tested for normality test and homogeneity test. If the data has been proved normal and homogeneous, then the pretest and post-test data will be calculated using SPSS to find the hypothesis test result and effect size of the data result. So that is my presentation about my article for this SEMPRO. So I think that's enough. If I have a mistake, I say sorry. The last I say, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.